Hi, I'm Dr. Jessey. I'll be helping you during your consultation. We will run through your history, do a physical assessment, as well as nerve scans. Continue watching this video to find out more about what's happening in your body and how chiropractic can help. I'll see you soon.
Hi, my name is Dr. Shan from Vitality Chiropractic Centers. Welcome to this video where I'll be explaining more about chiropractic care and how chiropractic works. The reason I explain this is because when we have a better understanding of something, that's when we can get the best from it. One example, I use the example of a laptop. If you have a laptop and all you think that you can do is use it to watch movies, that's all you'll be able to do. However, if somebody then shows and teaches you how you could use it for other purposes, such as maybe writing letters, going on the internet, or even starting a business, that's where you're going to start to see a lot more benefit and value from that laptop. And it's the same for chiropractic. When we can start to see the benefits and how chiropractic can help us, that's when we can really start to get a lot more value from it. For some of you watching this, you may already be patients. For some of you, you may be considering care. And for others, you may have been sent this by a loved one. When somebody comes to see me, the first thing I really want to find out in that first interaction is what kind of goals they have and what are they looking for from their health. What kind of improvements are they looking to make? Typically at this point, the majority of people are going to say something like, I want help with my headaches, I want help with my migraines, I have this fibromyalgia and these pains all over my body and I want them to go away, I just want to fix these symptoms. And someone tells me this and says they're so determined just to try and get rid of the symptoms, that's why I'd recommend maybe that they go to see their doctor, maybe try some pain medication, or maybe even go for a bottle of tequila. And for most people, this is when they look at me and go, whoa, 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 this is not what I meant. It's not just that I want to get rid of this pain, I want this pain to be gone and I want to fix this underlying problem. And that's really the goal of what we have as a chiropractor. Whether someone's coming in with some sort of pain issue, maybe in something that's causing different kinds of symptoms, like we see a lot of patients with vertigo or dizziness, or even if there's no symptoms yet, it's about improving the function of the body so that you can do the things that matter most to you, such as playing with your kids, returning to hobbies, or making sure that you can continue working. Really for people, when they have pain, it won't be the biggest factor, but it's when it stops them doing these other things that are so important to them, that's where it becomes a bigger problem. So while I firmly believe that chiropractic care is something that could benefit you and the people around you and could be the best thing that you ever do for your health, before I start today, I just want to have a little bit of a disclaimer. For some people watching this, there may be points where they feel a bit uncomfortable. I may be challenging certain beliefs or certain norms that you already have. I would say that's completely normal, that's completely okay. If we're not making you a bit uncomfortable, I'm not giving the right amount of information and giving you the best availability so you can make the best decision for your health. All I would ask is that you watch all the way through, and if you have any questions, queries, or even arguments, please feel free to give us a call or send me a message. So the first thing we really need to address is, what is health? Health is not necessarily a lack of symptoms or diseases or problems. Health is an overall ability for the body to work well and to adapt, not just to the normal parts of daily life, but to new and challenging situations as well. One of the things to remember for most healthcare systems, including the healthcare system in Singapore, is that this is actually a very robust system, and it's a system that works extremely well. Singapore especially is a country where their healthcare system is not just training and taking some of the best of the doctors and nurses within the country, but even training neighboring countries as well, and has some of the best facilities, not just in the region, but in the world. However, when we're looking at the spending when it comes to healthcare, it's actually quite high. So I have some numbers here that I've taken from the Singapore government, and we can see that in 2011 it was $4 billion. However, by 2016, despite the fact that we've had more developments and more changes and improvements, it rose to 9.8 billion. That's a very, very big change. The healthcare system we have is very, very good at dealing with a certain type of problem. This is what we would call the emergency, trauma, or crisis problems. So essentially emergency care, such as if you've already had some sort of accident or injury, and this would be the same if there's some sort of trauma care to then help to recuperate after that particular injury. And the other would be crisis care. So crisis care is where there's already been an illness in the body and it's been going on for a longer amount of time, such as if someone has had a sustained and very long-term condition. However, the problem is that when we look at these types of care, even though healthcare is especially good at dealing with it and does an excellent job, this is not all of our healthcare problems. In fact, when we look at the statistics, this is only around 1% of what people are going to hospitals or complaining about their health for. For most people, it's not going to be some sort of trauma, such as being in a car accident or some sort of other issue. It's going to be something where it's either built up progressively over time or it's related to their lifestyle. However, for most people, if they go into their hospitals or go to speak to their doctors and they ask for any advice about how to improve their lifestyle to prevent problems going forward, or even to some extent treat some of the lifestyle related conditions they have, they may not be given many answers. So in many ways, the problem is not necessarily with the healthcare system. It's doing a great job at what it does for our crises, but it's more about the model of healthcare that we have adopted, especially in the modern world. The model of healthcare we have now is not really healthcare, to be honest, it's sick care. It's about dealing with people when problems have already started, rather than trying to get them early or prevent them as well. A more proactive example of this would be the example of going to a dentist. Say you're having a toothache. The dentist does a full examination, they find the tooth on that side is developing a cavity. Of course, the main thing you'd want them to do is you want them to correct this. You wouldn't want them to give you painkillers or Panadol and ask you to come back in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. In the same part of this, if they were doing this examination, they found a cavity developing on the other side, even if it wasn't causing any symptoms, of course, you'd want them to fix and correct this. On the flip side of this, a less proactive approach would be that we see with cardiac problems. One of the first signs of heart disease is death by heart attack. This is a very extreme example, but we have to think, for this person, they only had symptoms at this very short period of time. But a few days before, were they as healthy as they could be? Of course not. So we need to make sure we're doing other tests to see how the overall health of the body is. So when talking about what is health, as I just mentioned with the idea of heart disease and heart attacks, we cannot purely rely on symptoms to let us know how healthy the body is and how we should intervene if intervention is necessary. Health is not just about not having symptoms and not having disease. Even any definitions that you read, whether it's from the dictionary, whether it's from the WHO, none of them will talk about health as being something where it's a lack of a disease or a problem. It's always about an overall wellness of our mental, physical, and even social well-being. This is what the overall picture of health is, not just within chiropractic, but even within the medical community, even though the healthcare system doesn't quite fit into that. Our current healthcare system is built on the idea of having or not having symptoms. However, overall health should really be about our ability to adapt to any new challenges or situations, whether they're chemical, physical, or even mental and emotional. And of course, it's about being able to do the things that we want to be able to do with as much ease as possible. So when we're looking at what are the things that we need to be healthy, really there's only 5 main things that we need. We need good nutrition, we need exercise, we need good mental health, we need rest, and we need proper nerve function. Of course, there are many other things that can be broken down under those 5 subsets, and I'm sure people have many different ways that they know how to keep healthy, but these are the main 5 things that we all need. So the next question is, what is controlling the body? Because whatever is controlling the body is moderating and regulating our health. The main thing controlling the body is your brain. The brain is connecting to the rest of the body via what we call the nerve system or the nervous system, and this nervous system is connecting every single part to the brain so that it can send all the information and messages that are needed for normal, regular, healthy functions. The nerve system, as we can see here, is essentially a wiring system of the body. It's connecting between the brain, through the spine, to all the other different body parts, so those messages that are coming from the brain telling things how to change, how to heal, and even how to regenerate can work properly. Therefore, due to the importance of this system, we must make sure that it stays intact, uninterfered, and as healthy as possible. When we're thinking about the purpose of the nerve system, it's not just about symptoms, but it's also about function, because really that's the biggest part of what it does. Symptoms and transmitting those messages of symptoms is a very small amount. One of the other ways we have to think about function is we must put that into the equation that we have for health. So I'll explain the equation in a second, but I want to tell you a bit of an interesting idea. Think of this person. This is a concert pianist. For this concert pianist, this is somebody who's had years of training. They know exactly how to play some of the most beautiful music imaginable. But one day when they go in, they've done all their warm-ups, they made sure that they know everything, they've done their practice, but someone hasn't tuned their piano quite as well as they should have. So when they go out on that stage in front of everybody, they aren't able to play the music to the same level that they know how. It's not their fault. It's unfortunately that they are limited by the abilities of the instrument that they're using. And in many ways the same happens with us. Your body is fantastically intelligent. Your body already knows how to do everything that's kept you from the point you've been born to where you are now. The intelligence of your body is able to regenerate skin cells, it's able to help you grow, it tells your hair how long to be, it tells your nails how long to be, it tells your eyes how to work, it connects all these different parts of you. Every injury you've ever had, every cut you've ever had, every part of food that you've turned into living tissue has all been done by this internal intelligence. In many ways, this internal intelligence, it's always perfect. It was always doing the best it can to keep you healthy at any point in your life. The only limitation really is us. It's limited on our body. It's limited on how we treat our body as well. This is one of the big differences we see with people. If they're not taking care of themselves, this is where that intelligence is limited in the capability it has to keep them as healthy as possible. So to help better explain how the nerve system works, we have an analogy here that we call the safety pin cycle. So here we have a safety pin, and I want you to imagine that at the top, this is the brain, and the bottom part is the body, and the thing that's connecting the two of them is the nerves of your body. These nerves are a communication system, meaning that the information from the brain can pass properly to certain parts of the body, and that vice versa, the information from that body part can be relayed properly back to the brain. This information system is very important to make sure that the body is working well together and can adapt to new changes, whether it's pain or anything else happening in the body. Now I want to tell you about a patient of mine. This patient's name is Grace. Now Grace is in her 40s, she's generally quite healthy, but when she was younger, there were a couple of falls, a couple of accidents, some times where she put herself under some stress, and it's then developed this opening in her safety pin. At the moment, it's not causing her any symptoms, but in the background, it's going to be affecting the function of her body. I also want you to look at this idea and imagine that this is Grace's stomach. So this imaginary line that we would have is what we are calling the symptom line in this case. So what we need to understand is that anything when it goes above this line may be causing her some symptoms, and anything below, it may only be affecting the function, but might not be causing any pain or symptoms at this point. As I mentioned already, Grace has an opening in that safety pin. So it's then affecting this communication, in her case, between the brain and between her stomach. Now Grace one night goes out with her family and they have a really nice meal. It's someone's birthday, so the food is really rich and it's a bit spicy as well. After the meal, her brain is then going to be saying to the stomach, okay, let's produce some stomach acid, we need to digest this food. However, as I already mentioned, there's a breakdown in communication between the brain and between the stomach. So after the brain has then told this to the stomach, and the stomach has done this and produced stomach acid, it can't send the information back to the brain saying, we've already produced the stomach acid. So the brain now is saying, wait, why haven't you done this? So let's produce more stomach acid, and it sends that same impulse down to the stomach. So then for Grace, what happens is, she starts to have more stomach acid building up and she starts to feel symptoms. She's feeling uncomfortable. And she's finding it strange because it's only her. The rest of her family, they all feel completely fine. But she's the only one that's experiencing this kind of problem. So what does Grace do at this point? She does like most people would. She maybe reaches for some antacids, maybe goes to a pharmacy and finds something in one of the aisles, maybe she tries a herbal remedy. She does something to help to deal with these symptoms she's feeling right now. She takes it and she feels pretty good. So then stomach acid is neutralized, it goes down to this level, and it's just below that symptom line once again. And Grace has now started to notice this has become more of a pattern in her life. It's something where she goes out and she has to now avoid certain foods, or if she wants to have them, she has to then have these medications on hand just in case she starts to feel some symptoms afterwards. So Grace keeps doing this and she keeps repeating this cycle. But one of the things that we need to remember when it comes to drugs and medication is that even Eli Lilly, one of the biggest companies in the world when it comes to pharmaceuticals, has openly said that all drugs cause side effects. In fact, the pharmaceutical companies and the pharmaceutical industry as a whole is one of the most profitable in the world, and 80% of their profits are going towards advertising and marketing, not to developing and researching new medication. Now, getting back to Grace. So Grace was taking the antacids for a while and it seems like it was really helping. However, now it seems there's been a resistance in the body. Now the antacids just aren't having the same impact that they were having before, and now she's starting to get the symptoms coming back again. Grace gets quite nervous, so she goes speak with her medical doctor. He refers her to a specialist. The specialist spends around 2 minutes with her, asks some questions about her symptoms, and then sends her off with a prescription for a medication. She goes to the pharmacy, gets that prescription, takes the medication, and to be honest, she's feeling pretty good. Now the symptoms have gone away, things seem like they're really doing much better. However, there's now been a change in the quality of Grace's life and in her lifestyle. Now what was originally being caused by richer foods and by spicier foods is now being affected by pretty much anything she eats. She's now being very cautious of where she can go. She's apprehensive about eating out and socializing with other people. She doesn't want this stomach problem to come back. And in many instances, she's even taking these very strong medications before she even has a meal because she doesn't want to experience these symptoms and problems. This carries on for a while, even a number of months. And then it comes back, unfortunately, with a vengeance. Now, the stomach acid is much higher than it was before, and the symptoms are much worse as well. Now the symptoms are not just in the place that it was originally around the stomach, but it's in the whole abdomen. And she's starting to get bloating, and she's starting to get aches and pains all over her body. So she goes back and she speaks again with the specialist. And the specialist says there are two routes they can take at this point. Number one, they may have to do some sort of imaging. So in this case, it would actually be meaning taking a camera, going down the throat, going into the stomach, which is fairly invasive, or depending on what they find, they may have to go for surgery. And Grace doesn't want to go for surgery. She's only in her 40s. She's concerned that she should have to go for something so serious, for something that she thinks should be easy enough to correct and to fix. At this point, Grace is feeling pretty low. She's really concerned about the idea of having to go for more testing or potentially going for surgery, and she speaks with a friend of hers. Her name is Claire. Claire is one of my patients. She was initially having issues with vertigo and hearing loss. She came to see me, we did a full examination, we set our plan for her, and she's been a great patient. She kept exactly with the plan that we set, and since then she's seen much bigger changes in her dizziness and vertigo and improvements in her hearing overall as well. So that's when Grace explains to Claire that she doesn't want to go for this surgery and that she's feeling quite worried. And that's when Claire says to her, "Oh, you should go and see my doctor. He's this chiropractor, he does this thing, it's at the top of the neck and it helps with the nerves and the brainstem. They do these special scans and I got much better." And the first thing that Grace looks at her and says is, "That is crazy. He's gonna do something up here and it's gonna affect what's going on down here. I'm okay." So Claire says to her, "Okay, then go for surgery." And at this point, of course, Grace says, whoa, 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 maybe I should look into this. You know, I'm miserable at this point. What have I got to lose? So Grace comes to see me. We do a full breakdown of the history, really go more into an analysis to see if there is any breaks that we talked about in that safety pin, see if anything is going on in the nerve system. And I find that there is something out that's been going on for quite some time. So then we start care, and this is when we start to get that safety pin more connected up. However, what you'll notice is she's still experiencing symptoms. We've connected the communication system, but the body is still producing these symptoms. However, over time, we start to do these adjustments, not all the time, but only when needed, only when that safety pin is open, and that's when things start to get better. At this point, she's still experiencing symptoms, but things are starting to heal. Again, we keep doing regular checks over time, adjusting only when needed, not at every visit, and that's when things start to improve more and more for Grace. So at this point, the body is getting better, but Grace isn't necessarily feeling that much better just yet. At this point, we're still continuing with the appointments, doing regular checks to see when that safety pin is out and only doing adjustments when it is out and needs to be corrected. However, even though things are still not feeling great, is the body improving? Well, of course, the body is improving functionally and getting better over time. At this point though, she gets a little bit concerned again. She comes to me and says, "Hey doc, it's really good that there's all these appointments where I don't need to be adjusted and the scans show my body's doing better, but I'm still feeling like I'm getting these symptoms." And I said to her, "So do you remember in the beginning we talked about how these things take time? This is a problem that you've known about for a number of months and years, but may have been developing even longer than that?" And she said, "Yeah, I understand. This is something that which may take more time for it to heal." So she sticks with it and we carry on her course of care. Then finally we help Grace get to this position where she's below the symptom line and things are feeling good. But is she well? Well, not necessarily yet. And if she was then to stop care at this point, potentially things may start to revert back to the way they were before because the body is still not completely healed and it's not at that stage just yet. For anybody who's come to see me before, they will know that in the beginning, this is where we need to see people more often to try and revert some of the changes that have been happening and damaging their body over time. And then when things are better and more stable, that's when appointments get more and more spaced out so that people can then continue on with their normal activities. My ultimate goal for all patients is to get regularly checked but to not need adjustments. Because when you don't need an adjustment, that's when of course the body is doing much better. That's when this safety pin is intact. And that's when I start to space out those appointments further and further so people can carry on doing the things that are most important to them and that they value. What this also means then for patients like Grace is that over time, things will continue to improve and eventually she will get well. And then as we continue further along on this program, that's where we start to see these symptoms improving more and more, and not just again going away from the symptom line, but actually improving the overall function within the stomach as well. At this point, Grace is feeling much better, her body's functioning much better, and she's much happier. But how long did this whole process take? Probably a few months. The great thing about the body is this is a problem that's been developing over a number of years. But in only a few months, the body has been able to heal and improve this condition. And this is all it needed. All it needed was a proper communication system between the body and the brain and a better environment for it to heal. So you may be wondering, what causes these kinds of problems? These kind of problems, these breakdowns in that safety pin, are caused by what we call subluxation. And subluxation comes in various different forms. Subluxation can be physical, so it can be injuries, sports, accidents. It can even be the birthing process. It can be our postures, even when we're sleeping. All of these things can either be immediate, like a big injury, or can accumulate more over time, having a negative effect on the state of the body. This can also be affected by mental and emotional stresses, and also by chemical stresses as well. So what is this subluxation? Subluxation very simply is a misalignment of the bones at the top of the neck, the ones that are surrounding an area we call the brainstem. These bones are only about this big, and through the center we have the brainstem running through. We want this hole to be as big as possible. However, if there's some sort of accident, injury, or other physical trauma, it will then start to shift and close that hole. That hole being closed will start to compress more on that area, or the body may have to adapt and change its shapes to try and react to that change that's happening at the top area. The brainstem, as I mentioned, is this area, and it's just at the top here in that circle. All the information goes from the brain, comes through here, and this acts as a relay center before it goes to anywhere else in the body. We talked about the idea of the safety pin. This would be just below that very top part of the brain. Everything must go through here before it gets to every other single part of the body that the brain is controlling, which is every single cell, every single muscle, every single organ. So the information getting through here must be as unimpeded and uninterfered with as possible. As I just mentioned, that subluxation may either have an effect directly at the brainstem area, or the body may make compensations and it may adapt and change its movements and angles to take the pressure off of that top area. As an example, think of this person. This person has a tilt of their head. If I had a tilt of my head, nobody walks around like this. Everyone does what they can to try and again compensate so the earth and everything else looks nice and level. So from here, they'll do this. By doing this, that's actually bringing up this shoulder. And by bringing up that shoulder, it starts to affect the mid-spine. That is then connected to the lower spine and starts to change those angles. That will then affect into the hips, making one leg longer or shorter than the other, and can even start to affect the overall balance and rotation of the body, as we can see here. And this change at the brainstem can really trickle all the way down, affecting other parts of the spine and the nerve system, and affecting the muscles, making them imbalanced from side to side. Due to how this subluxation affects the rest of the body, we also commonly see people coming in with problems such as headaches, migraines, dizziness, vertigo, back issues, neck issues, shoulder issues, as well as how that can affect the rest of the nerve system, such as digestive problems, immunity problems, sleep problems as well. So you may be wondering, how do we get these kinds of changes for our patients? We use a very specific type of analysis and technique, working just with the top bones of the neck, the ones that are surrounding the brainstem, as we just mentioned, which can also start to have effects on the rest of the ways that the body will compensate lower down. The goal is not to have any big popping sounds or cracking sounds, although we may hear some pops occasionally with some adjustments. The goal is not about those big rotations or movements, it's about improving neurological function for your body. The technique we use is very specific, working just on those top bones in the neck, and we're the first ones to do this within Southeast Asia. This means that patients require less frequent care and get faster results. We also use specialized resting rooms. These again help to speed up the results for our patients and give them faster solutions. We also take a specialized type of x-rays called biomechanical views. Again, we are the first ones to take this within Southeast Asia. And we're also the first ones within Singapore to use this type of nerve scans to more accurately see what's going on in the body and to get a better diagnosis for our patients. One of the main technologies we use is medical grade computed infrared thermography, and this lets us see accurately what's going on in the nerve system, and something we test at every single visit so we can track progress and see when someone does or does not need some sort of adjustment. Within single adjustments, we may see changes like this, where we start to see much more interference, and within the same appointment, after a resting period, we have things much more balanced. The goal of chiropractic is about helping to analyze and detect for subluxations in the nerve system, helping the body work better overall. This is not just about finding pain and trying to relieve that pain or symptoms, but it's about really releasing the nerve system so the body can actually work better and you can have a fuller and better life. Not just enjoying pain-free, but also enjoying the things that you want to be able to do, such as getting back to hobbies, your family life, and of course enjoying your work. The patients I typically see have already been to everyone. They've been to see doctors and specialists, and in many cases they've been told there's either nothing they can do or even more scarily that nothing is wrong with them. Despite the number of CTs, MRIs and blood tests they've all had, they've never had a test for their nerve system. My hope is that if you're already a patient, this helps you to understand more about what's going on with your care and to understand more about your own case. And if we've never met or you've never seen a chiropractor before, that hopefully this helps you to understand more about what we do. I hear these horror stories all the time of people who fall through the cracks in healthcare services and continue to work through their own suffering and their own sickness. However, in my practice, I'm always seeing these people who are getting well. My goal is that we could try to reach these people and help them as well. If you know people that are always cracking their own necks, rubbing their shoulders, getting sore issues in the muscles, or have these changes in posture we talked about, such as a tilt of the head, change in the angle of the shoulders, or even that change lower down in the rest of the body, this may all be a sign that there may be a nerve system problem contributing to their issues in their body. Whether this is causing them symptoms yet or not, it would always be smart for them to get some sort of health check to make sure that we can see what's going on and try to prevent things going forward into the future as well. My hope would also be that you would share this video with other people. There's only one of me, but there's many of you. If we can share this kind of message with others, we can work together to do our best for them and to help them to take their lives back.